Jonathan Hickman's X-Men miniseries continues this week with House of X number 3, and this one is pretty exciting. Great X-Men comic, strong continuation for this storyline, but if you're anything like me, you're most curious about what exactly is the Heller-Faust line. So stay tuned for that. We're going to talk about that as well as spoil the plot for this one, so if you haven't read it yet, maybe just mute the video and watch the art, or if you want to be spoiled, just keep watching. So the basic plot of this issue of House of X is the X-Men, based on the knowledge they've gained from Moira McTaggart's previous lives, know that they have to stop what's called, I believe, the Orchis Project from creating new Sentinels that can create new Sentinels that will eventually create the artificial intelligence known as Nimrod, which we have seen the future X-Men have to deal with in the Powers of 10 miniseries. So a team of X-Men in this issue, led by Scott Summers' Cyclops, including Wolverine, Jean Grey, M, Archangel, and Mystique, for some reason, are going to go up to the satellite where the Orchis Project is being housed and stop them from creating the Mother Mold, which can create Master Molds, which can create Sentinels, and has already been mentioned, will eventually give rise to that Nimrod artificial intelligence. Simple enough, the X-Men just take a Shi'ar battleship up to space to sneak past the Orchis Forge's early warning systems, but while that's happening, there's a couple subplots going on. One of them, Sabretooth, has been taken into custody. He's now at a supermax prison, and this was kind of curious to me. The prosecutor on this case, they had the trial in the prison. The prosecutor was called Tolliver, which, longtime X-Men fans remember that name as being an X-Force villain that was later revealed to be the son of the clone of Cable, which is confusing enough, and even more confusing, this Tolliver is a woman. Is there any connection at all? It seems like a strange name to use, Tolliver, if there's not going to be a connection to the previous villain, who was also, in charge of putting spies into the X-Men. So I wonder if there's going to be a similar situation as that, because the original Tolliver made Domino an undercover spy in X-Force. And that was, kind of interesting too, because it meant that technically, like the first year of appearances of the character of Domino were not actually Domino. So does that hurt the value of her first appearance? Probably not, considering that New Mutants 98, her first appearance, was also the first appearance of the real, true Deadpool, and that's what it matters for now most of all. But other than that, in this scene in House of X, Sabretooth busts out with the help of the White Queen, Emma Frost, and her cuckoos, or at least 2 out of the 3 cuckoos. Don't know what happened to the third one. And it is, kind of an interesting piece of character trivia too, that Sabretooth smells her coming and says, "Oh, smells like jasmine, must mean the White Queen is in the room." The other strange thing about that scene is that the White Queen claims diplomatic immunity for Sabretooth because, it was only a couple of manslaughter charges, which I'm sure diplomatic immunity in most cases applies to that. Really, honestly, not so much. It's more for, things like parking tickets. But, if the White Queen wants something, the White Queen gets it. So Sabretooth is out of there. Tolliver and the Supermax prison are out of luck, and we'll just have to see in future issues what happens to them. So back to the main plot, the X-Men are going up to the Orchis Forge, and, like I mentioned earlier, the humans up there are aware of something called the Heller-Faust line. So what is that? I had to look it up, and I think it's a rather oblique reference to Eric Heller's The Damnation of Faust, The Morality of Knowledge, a 1962 academic article in the Chicago Review, which was rather interesting. I didn't read the whole article, just kind of skimmed it, but it starts with a couple of what I thought were very interesting anecdotes. So in this Heller article, it talks about life at Cambridge in the late 1950s, early 1960s, as they had started to implement a PhD program. And apparently one of the masters at Cambridge in the UK was of the opinion that the PhD program was a bad idea because it encouraged students, or it made them overly concerned with publishing papers. In the words of that master, he said, "In my time, it was in the essence of a gentleman that his name never appear in print. which, you know, if Jonathan Hickman read that, it's probably something he's wondered about. It's probably something, you know, if any professional writer or artist or anyone who's been published has run into this article or heard this line before, it's probably something they've considered, but then, you know, tossed aside and said, you know, I think I prefer having my name in print, but still kind of a funny line. But overall, the article, in terms of its connection to this X-Men story, I think what they're trying to say is that the character of Faustus, which first appeared in the 16th century in like 1587 in German literature, Dr. Faustus eventually found a way to summon the devil, so that the Heller-Faustus line would be you cross the line, you realize the morality of knowledge, you find out that you can summon the devil, but you think better of it and you refuse to do so, which is something at least the humans in this X-Men story are thinking about. The devil in this case, of course, being, well, should we make robots that can make robots that kill mutants? Should we make a robot that can make more robots that can make more robots that will eventually give rise to an artificial intelligence that will kill everybody and turn people into robots? You know, probably not. They also kind of position it as essentially a gray goo situation, which this has come up in a couple of Marvel comics before. I think this was a plot point in Mark Waid's Fantastic Four about 15 years ago, as well as, well, in a DC comic, in America's Best comic, Alan Moore's Tom Strong, like the second issue of Tom Strong, I think is a really good gray goo, done in one plot line. And then, of course, if you remember the MacGuffin from Mission Impossible 3, that was also a gray goo situation in theory, although it was just one scene of Simon Pegg saying, hey, this might be a gray goo situation. You know, in some of my previous reviews for Hickman's X-Men series, such as for Powers of 10, number 2, I mentioned that issue in particular didn't have a lot of action going on, but I don't think we're having that problem anymore. Like I mentioned before, the X-Men take a Shi'ar battleship up to the Orchis Forge, and they're ready to go. They're ready to rumble, but the humans, they make this statement that, you know, we can't destroy their ship because it's this Shi'ar technology, but still once they get close enough, they blow up part of the forge in order to, what seemingly the cliffhanger here is that it blows up part of the X-Men ship. So that's the end of the issue. Are the X-Men dead? If I had to guess, probably not. But, you know, we will have to wait to see exactly how the X-Men have survived this. They got a couple options. You know, Jean Grey's got telekinesis. She could put up basically a force shield around them or keep the ship from, or, you know, keep them safe as the ship explodes. Nightcrawler's there. He's a teleporter. Could teleport everyone out of the way. You know, there's options here. What we do know is that based on the Krakoan language that's been, you know, peppered throughout the pages of these miniseries, that something sinister is coming. Whenever something sinister is coming in an X-Men comic, you know that means Mr. Sinister is on the way. So that will probably be in the next couple of issues. You know, I've talked a lot about some of the great things Hickman has been doing with the story, but I can't leave out Pepe Larraz and his art. It's just phenomenal. He's getting better and better with every issue. House of X is my favorite of these two miniseries based on the art that Pepe is delivering. And, you know, that's kind of what my drawing is based on today. I'm drawing his version of Marvel Girl, aka Jean Grey. I say Marvel Girl. She might be going by Jean Grey or Phoenix, but she's wearing the Marvel Girl costume, so that's what we'll say. But, you know, I've compared Pepe's work before to Stuart Amonin, and at this point, you know, I'm not saying one's necessarily better than the other, but I think Pepe might be pulling away here. He might be getting even better than even the best stuff I've seen from Amonin in the past. Like some of the backgrounds here and the work he does on drawing the Orchis space station, and also just the sense of movement with all the characters is just phenomenal. So it's great. I absolutely recommend this issue. And it's like if you were only following one of these miniseries, Powers of 10 or House of X, I'd have to give it to House of X. If you only had the budget to get one, get House of X. So it's great stuff. I'm really looking forward to the next issue. If you are as well, or if there's something in particular that you're enjoying about this series, please let me know in the comments below. If you like this review, go ahead, smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and please check out links below for the other X-Men reviews I've been doing for this series. And if you're an artist yourself, Remember, you got to keep drawing, you got to draw every day or you can't get better. So until next time, all the artists out there, keep drawing.